Academia is actually a cult. If someone told me this 5 years ago, I would have looked at them as if they are downright crazy. But if they told me this now, well, I might still wonder whether they're crazy, but I won't totally rule it out because there are some cultish stunts and practices in academia that I have picked up in the past 5 years. And in this video, we are going to talk about a few of them. Welcome back, lovelies, and welcome if this is your first time here. My name is Lerato Kanomsa of All Things in Academia, where we explore and explain all things in the academic world. Last week I was watching a documentary that is raising awareness about cults and their practices, and I thought to myself, some of these things sound very familiar. Like, I actually sound like I am a member of a cult. This is of course referring to my academic journey so far. So in today's video, we are going to look at some similarities between academia and cults. Not to say that academia is actually a cult, but I'm just saying there are some very interesting similarities. For starters, the hierarchy in academia. Every cult has a clear hierarchical structure and typically one charismatic leader whom the followers are devoted to, his or her teachings, his or her rules. So while in academia there's a clear hierarchical structure like professors, associated professors, researchers, students, candidates, and so forth, there is not one charismatic leader in the whole of academia. However, there is always that one top G, the leading voice in each department at every university, whom the students in that field adore and are devoted to, and following the leading scholars' sets of theories. And just like in a cult, this is the person you should please, for they are very authoritative in that particular field and responsible for approval and acceptance. Next up, the jargon and terminology. Just like in some cults, academia has its own specialized language that an outsider will not understand. Seriously. Every field has its own terminology, and worse, academics are constantly creating new terms. They are coming up with new terminology literally with each and every research they do. They are constantly naming and renaming things, and they are constantly constructing, reconstructing concepts into new ideologies that only them in that field will understand. A research observes that terminology in cults does not only serve to isolate members from the outside world, but also to create a sense of belonging amongst those who understand that specialized vocabulary, leading us to our next point. Group identity. Another research identifies jargon and terminology as significant elements of group identity in cults, along with shared belief, exclusivity, rituals, and ceremonies. There is no denying that the shared beliefs amongst academics, trying to find out the truth, trying to contribute to knowledge, the classic trying to change the world. So academia is a group of people who come together with a shared belief of knowledge from whatever angle that is. But not only that, there is a clear exclusivity culture in academia, the us-them mentality. Academics are obviously different from other groups of people. They see things differently, they approach things differently. Honestly, I think they are aliens. But that's a story for another day. They approach everything in suspicion. They critically analyze everything because that's what makes a good academic. And one cannot overlook the rituals and ceremonies in academia. Academics are expected to attend certain gatherings which follow a structured and defined pattern. Those are your seminars, academic conferences, and lectures. Those who attend are expected to participate in ritual-like activities such as presenting papers, engaging in discussions, being part of formal panels, and share their knowledge. I know, creepy, right? On that creepy note, let's move on to our next point, dedication and commitment. In both academia and cults, there is a need for a high level of determination. Academics invest years in their studies, and this kind of determination and commitment comes with great sacrifices. Academics sacrifice their sleeps, their time, their family time, their friendships, their relationships, and financial sacrifice is a requirement in academia. In fact, it's like you almost need to put everything on hold, literally, your whole life. Which leads us to our next point, social isolation. Research confirms that cults often encourages or require members to cut ties with their families and friends who are not part of the group, isolating them from the outside influences. From what we have covered in the previous point, it's starting to become clear, right? Academics spend a lot of their time isolated and by themselves in the libraries or their offices or indoors working, either reading, transcribing, cross-reading, decoding. They are often by themselves, isolated from their loved ones and the outside world. Stigma surrounding leaving academia is the next point. Leaving a cult is often accompanied by a sense of disgrace within the cult community. Former members may be ashamed and criticized and even threatened. Well, in academia, threatened, not so much. The only thing threatened will be your career. But leaving is associated with feelings of shame and is perceived as failure, especially when one leaves without obtaining a specific academic degree or before they can secure an academic position. There is often an expectation of continuous progress and achievement in academia. This stigma goes beyond the academic circle. Also, leaving academia can go against external expectations such as those of family, peers, mentors who might have encouraged one's academic pursuit. Yep, leaving is harder than you think. Finally, financial demands. There is no way to get around this, no way to sugarcoat it. Academia is expensive, period. In cults, there is often a strong expectation that members demonstrate their commitment through financial sacrifice. Members may be pressured to give up their worldly possessions and incomes and so forth. While not as extreme as in cults, but academia also involves financial sacrifice. Many students take on student loans to cover their tuitions, and academics may face financial pressure to secure research funding or maintain an academic lifestyle. So, lovelies, would I say I've joined a cult? Well, not confidently, because while there are some cultish aspects in academia, there's also a lot of things that rule out this idea. But I remain suspicious. I remain very, very suspicious. After all, I am an academic, and that's what I am trained to do, to be suspicious. Question everything. What do you think, lovelies? Is academia a cult or not? And why do you think what you think? Drop me a comment. While we are still on the subject of weirdness and all things creepy in academia, my next video is about the dark side of academia. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the videos that I'm going to upload in the future. If you have enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Now, click on the video that is appearing on your screen right now, because that is the video that you should be watching next if you want to boost your grades. I project to you love and grace in a way of 2 Corinthians 13 verse 14.